The green that I'm using is actually not a tube green. It's a combination of Antwerp blue and cadmium yellow light. I don't like to use the tube greens. They always look so chemical. I find it's much better to mix your own greens. I don't even have my students in class buy green. I'm trying to suggest a hazy sort of feel down there. And in order to enhance that, I'm actually going to wipe this a bit. I hope that works. With watercolor, you will learn a lot of it depends on lucky accidents. That's good. That is good. I have contrast that I want. I have some color differentiation that I want. I still want to retain the effect of a distant mountainscape. And the rest is going to be water with maybe a close-up hill in the lower area in the foreground. So we'll let this dry. At this stage of the game, I like to introduce some closer foreground objects, hills, that really come up to the front of the painting. And I'll use them to also create the effect of reflection. Instead of painting directly in, because I'm actually a little worried I'm going to ruin what I have here, I'm going to pencil where I want the next mountain to go. This is going to be significantly darker than anything we've done. I think maybe in this area would be good. Placing it here to enhance the effect of asymmetric balance with this hill. There we go. Something like that. That'll work. At least now I know where I'm going to flow my dark color. And I will start with a relatively dark color. What I plan to use is a mixture of brown matter and Antwerp blue down here. I'll mix them together. It's going to give me a fairly dark gray. I prefer my mixed colors rather than go into a Payne's gray or a charcoal gray because I find it imparts an extra element of richness to the look of the dried color. You get hints of the other color I've used, and that's just so much more exciting to look at than a plain flat gray. What I like to do at this stage of the painting, instead of directly working in the darker color, is I like to wet the area first. Sort of like priming it, getting it ready. So with my number 6 watercolor brush, I'm flowing in clean water. The reason why I do this is so when I load the brush with paint, the paint doesn't sink right into the fiber of the paper and get stuck there. I want it to flow, I want it to move around, and this barrier of water will allow it to do that. Whereas if I mark it on a dry paper, it'll suck right in and I'm going to have a hard time moving the paint around. So now, having done that, I'm mixing up a little bit of the brown matter and Antwerp blue. And I'm going to play with variations on that as we go along. Here we go. This is going to be dark. And I think if the camera is sensitive enough to pick this up, you can see a little bit of that gray blue coming through. I'm flowing in brown matter directly. I'm going to ignore my line work a little bit. And I play with it. I try to, in my mind's eye, see hills, see things that I've seen. I mean, that's where it all comes from me. Places I've been, things I've seen. I love nature, and my work revolves around it. I'm not trying to copy nature. In this simple exercise, I'm paraphrasing a memory of nature. Yeah, that works. Now, what I would like to do, like this, it's in the foreground, it's close. So we're going to have the opportunity to see a lot more color than we normally would see if it was in the distance. Add a little bit of green to that. Remember, the green is a mixed green. It's not tube green. This is Antwerp blue. I believe cadmium yellow light. I'm not sure. There we go. And we're going to let it bleed. We're going to let it do its own thing. The worst thing I could do right now is take my brush and work into this. Move the color around. I don't want to do that. That would ruin it. I am going to add a little burnt sienna. Why am I going to add burnt sienna? I haven't a clue. I just think it's going to look good there. That's what painting is all about often. It's going with your gut feeling. Can't be afraid to take a chance. Could ruin it, but on the other hand, something great may happen. You know, I think what also might help is if I throw a little red in. I'm seeing how, if this is a sunset, right about there. Well, I don't want too much. I may pick up a little bit of that ambient, atmospheric red glow to that permeates the landscape. Yeah, I like that. You'll leave that alone. You have to know when to stop. The only thing I'm going to add now, and I hesitate to do this because I think this could become gimmicky, but I'm going to add a little bit of salt right about there and there. I feel it needs some textural variation. But I have to caution you with the use of salt. Don't overdo it. Okay. Once again, it's been about 20 minutes, and it's dry. And if you notice, the salt was successful. It created an interesting textural quality that might suggest foliage. Now, how do I finish this? I'm thinking of wetting this area. Once again, applying a light blue wash. I think that will very nicely suggest water. And then in this area, add some shadows. So here's how we do it. It's important to always work with clean water. Please remember that. Now, I'm going to take my nice, large, flat angle brush. I love this brush. And I'm going to wet it right there. Notice I'm only wetting to the, maybe it's a shoreline. Not wetting into it. The beautiful thing with watercolor is watercolor will only flow, when you use this technique, only flow where you've wet the paper. So that's an excellent way of controlling what you're doing. You're going to want the color to flow up here a little bit too. This is the advantage of using the angled brush. It's like the combination of a round and a flat at the same time. I can get into areas like that, and I could easily shift to a wash. More and more, I'm finding myself painting with brushes like this, angle brushes. Okay, so grabbing my blue. I'm going to be subtle with the blue. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm going to, flow in areas. Maybe in a streak-like fashion to suggest the variation that you would see when looking out upon a mountain lake. That area could possibly use a little bit of a reflective feel. I'm going to add some greens because I do have some greens. There we go. Yes. Maybe even down there, get a little bit of that. That'll blend. I know the color went on rather strongly for a second there, but that'll bleed in. I'm going to add a little bit of the sky effect to the water. Oh, I have to be careful that my pigment, I'm going to dilute my pigment just a little bit more. I don't want it to be too heavy. Oh, could be too heavy. What do I do? Suck some of it out with a clean brush. Yes. See how I can do that? I lift it up. I'll dip the brush in plain water, and then I'm using it as a painting vacuum cleaner to suck out some of that color. Very nice. Yeah, that works nicely. Now, the mountain itself, how to get the shadow in. I'm going to go back to that gray that I mixed. Here it is. Not too dark. I see browns. Let me get that out of the way. So what I'll do is right under it, add a little bit of the gray. Yeah. Echo the shape of the hill itself. Actually, I like that little dry area. This is where I say the watercolor, you follow the accidents. That's a nice effect right there. It did it on its own. I did not do it. The little wedge of lighter blue, perfect. More and more you paint, the more sensitive you become to the possibilities of the accident, what they suggest. I'm going to add a little bit of the green in there because there is green in that area. I'm not sure if the camera is picking it up. And I'll add a little bit of burnt sienna. That would be a beautiful, beautiful brown in this area to echo the subtle hint of burnt sienna there. Yeah, that's about it. Now the only thing I might do differently under more flexible circumstances is that I might tilt it at this point, because often you could achieve nice effects if you let the watercolor run. I think I'm going to resist, but I can't. I think a little salt in this area would probably be perfect. It is water. You do get dappled effects on water, and salt is a nice way to capture those effects. That's just about it. It's clean, it's crisp. I like the effect of the salt. It dapples it in a nice way, and it's finished. The only thing that remains is for me to remove it from the tape board, and I like to add a border. I like to paint a border around that, so I'm going to do that now. Before I go that far, though, I guess it's time to sign it. I like to take a fine brush. Oh, what color should I use? I'll use my gray mixture that I have here. And I'll write my name on it. That's it. Hope you enjoyed the video.